Well, good morning, Diet Disruptors. Carrie here, along with Coach Brenna. Brenna, you're joining me again.
Good
I'm so
morning. Yes, I'm a regular now. I'm liking this. This is great.
I love it. It's so funny because a lot of the times with coaches, it's like who's available and who can join me. And you just also really like doing this. So it's
I
kind of fun.
do.
Yes. Well, I hope that you had a nice weekend and that you're ready to kind of crush your week. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We had a pretty rough weekend with the winter weather in upstate New York. So we're finally getting back on the right path. So we're good.
It's so funny. Like this whole winter has been odd for us I'm in New England, not that far from you, but we've had super mild days and super crazy
Yes.
cold days.
Yep.
It's been
Yes.
it's been nuts. So, but today I am in my home office, in my home. Sometimes I'm in my little cabin in New York because my kids are working up in the mountain, which is great, giving them that knowledge about why it's so important to work, but it's really nice to be home and cozy. So we have all month we are digging into kind of being really practical with people. So last week I was all by myself. I did a solo show, and I wanted to kind of just I had a lot to say because it's a topic that is near and dear to my heart. We talked about diets and why diets suck, why they will always fail us. And so I'm kind of on my pedestal, so sometimes I like to do those all on my own. But
Mhm.
this next topic, it kind of flows from that, right? We talked about diets, but that's like hardcore stuff, right? People are like
Right.
on a diet, off a diet. But there are things that we are doing almost all the time. And I think there's some women that don't even realize they're doing it, that they
I
think are
agree.
healthy and they're sabotaging themselves.
I absolutely agree.
It's so
Ab-
crazy. Did
Yes.
you did you sabotage yourself without knowing it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, as I've said before, I have done every single diet in the world, and I'm sure as we start talking, we'll talk about all these different things. But I think about the mistakes that I made without thinking about the harm it was doing, and thinking that I would lose weight so quickly on these diets. But then I feel like you are what you eat. And when you're not eating anything, you're not eating anything nutritional, it shows.
Yeah.
So I felt like I did, but and as much weight as I would lose, it would come right back and I would just look terrible. So there are so many things that I didn't know. And I'm so thankful that I know now and glad we can share it with people.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you say that because we don't do a great job, I think, of always listening to our body. And I think that's
Mhm.
one of the things our 4 weeks to wellness lifestyle launch
Yes.
forces you to do, right? You become so much more aware of how your body's reacting to the
So
stuff
true.
you're putting in it. Wouldn't you
So
agree?
true.
Hmm.
So true. And when we do integration, and starting to really kind of look at different foods one by one and realizing, oh my gosh, milk actually makes me bloated. I never knew that.
Well,
So
that's one of the things that I think we do, and we don't even realize we're sabotaging ourselves. So
right,
if you're drinking milk, for example, or having
right.
gluten, or things that are just highly that don't often serve most of our body produces. This is a made up term that I have made up, but our
Okay.
bodies produce like a callus. Like a
Hmm.
callus on your hand or on your foot, and it just protects yourself like a little. It's like hardened, and nothing can
Right,
penetrate it. It's
right.
like your body builds up this callus to protect itself, and it's typically in fat cells. And we don't even realize how bad some of that stuff is making us feel. We're just
Right.
kind of used to it,
Yes.
and we think it's not a big deal. I know so many people, I'm fine with gluten, I'm fine with dairy. But that's one of the ways we sabotage ourselves, is not allowing ourselves the time to actually take away those foods that we know scientifically don't serve us, and
Right.
actually see, once that callus is removed, what's going on.
Yes. Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
Yeah. And our 4 weeks to wellness is a really great opportunity to do that. It's closed right now. We only open it a few times a year. We are going to open it in March. So, yay!
I'm so
People,
excited. I'm going to
I
do it
know.
again.
Are you going to do it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I need my reset. I know March is coming and I'm going to reset. hopefully with everybody else who wants to do it with us.
It's a really great time. And it's funny because this is why we always talk about it being a lifestyle launch, but this is a journey. And
Mhm.
I do it 2 or 3 times a year. It's like an oil change. You would never keep driving your car for 5,000 miles without doing an oil change. So it's sort
Right.
of like that. And when people do our 4 weeks to wellness, they have access to it forever. So they can continue to do it as much as they want, which
Right.
I love. So if people are interested, they can go to 4w2w.com and get on the wait list, because not only people on the wait list get kind of a special offer, an early special offer, but we only can take so many people. And so when people are on the wait list, they get first dibs at the opportunity to get a spot. So that's kind of cool.
Perfect. Exciting.
So speaking of sabotaging, which is what our kind of theme is today, we did talk about just, having that dairy and having gluten and having things that we know don't serve our body, and never really truly finding out if that's a problem. The more toxins we take in, the more our bodies produce fat cells.
Right.
So it's not that we have to eat clean all the time, but we do have to do some sort of a reset. So I think that's one piece of the puzzle. Now let's go over a couple more. I got one for you. And I think
Okay.
people do this all the time, whether they're on a diet or not. They just think calories, and I got to eat less calories. I just got to eat less calories, or I got to burn off those calories I just ate. And that's actually sabotaging us in so many ways. Were you a
Yep.
calorie counter?
Oh God, yes, absolutely. I mean, and keeping track and realizing that, oh well, a man has this many calories that they can consume a day and lose weight. This a woman has this many, but when you look at it, I mean, what were those? I mean, so I can eat 1,000 calories of what, popcorn, and
Right.
then I'm good. So it doesn't make any sense when you really understand it.
It doesn't. It's totally sabotaging us. And food does different things. That's the thing. We don't know enough about food. Carbs, proteins, and fats all do different things for our bodies. And if we're only looking at calories and not looking at proteins, fats, and carbs, then we're completely doing a disservice to our body and actually sabotaging our goals. So
Right.
crazy. Stop with the calories. And if you know the right proteins, fats, and carbs, you don't even need to count calories. Coach Jess says your body's not a checkbook, and she's totally right.
It's
I hate
true.
balancing a checkbook. I hate counting
It's true.
calories. All right, what's another thing that people do to sabotage themselves?
Well, not only counting calories, but looking at points. I mean, how confusing is that? I mean, we don't need to be confused. I mean, it's so simple. It really is. But there are people who will, again, count the calories, count the points. And it's, I mean, that math thing that I talked about before that I just don't like to do morning to night. So it's, counting those points.
You're right.
Oh, so
So it's
frustrating.
actually two parts of calories. People think we have to reduce calories,
Right.
and if we go in a caloric deficit, so they're always looking to be a caloric deficit. That working out will allow me to be in a deficit, which I always say, since when is a deficit a good thing? We need fuel. We don't have, it's not about depriving ourselves. It actually will sabotage. When we're working at a deficit, our body will actually store fat when we eat it. Um, Hello, that's why diets don't work, right? So we
Right.
think we have to be at a caloric deficit, and then we count calories or points. You're right. Like, again, all calories and points are not created equal. So you're
Right.
totally right. So
Right.
another thing people are always doing, always, I'm talking about this all the time, and again, this isn't about being on keto. I know people that just avoid carbs. They're not necessarily on keto, but they just know that carbs are really bad, and so I just don't have carbs. But they're sabotaging themselves.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I mean, it's a vital nutrient. You need to have carbs. And we have grown to believe over the past, I don't know how long the low carb diets have been out, but I mean, I've probably done all of them, but we were made to believe, I don't know, through social media, whatever it is, that carbs are bad for you. Carbs, stay away from carbs. And it's so damaging.
it is. And when we do that, so it's all about blood sugar stabilization. And that's the thing that diets will never ever tell you, because all they talk about is deficit. And and here's the crazy thing, because you lost weight on a diet, right? Because you will, because you're basically starving yourself, but it's not the healthy way, it's not the right way, it's not the sustainable way, and it slows down your metabolism, and it screws up your hormones, it takes your body out of homeostasis, all of those things. But they're not going to tell you that, because they need you to have the quick win, because then when you have the quick win and then you eventually gain the weight back, that you can believe it was you, not them. And so
Right.
therefore you just have to go on another diet because it worked before. How bad does that screw up with your brain and your
Yes.
mindset and your confidence?
Oh, it's awful. It's
not to
awful.
mention the yo-yo.
It's the yo-yo. It's the yo-yo.
Yeah, yeah. So when we eliminate carbs, which is like what you just said, it's a macronutrient.
Right.
There's only three.
We need it, folks. We
And so
need it.
if you're eliminating carbs, you're literally eliminating a macronutrient that your body needs. So people can talk about keto and being in ketosis. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother problem. But if you're just avoiding carbs, you're actually not giving your body the energy it needs and the nutrients it needs. Think about all veggies and fruits are carbs. And like I know people that just don't eat fruit because it's too carby. I mean, come
Yep.
on. What?
Been there, done that. But
Right.
now I know
Plus,
better.
I also think there's something to be said when you feel deprived all the time and
Hmm.
you feel like you can't do something. I can't eat that. Like my kids, if they're ordering French fries, I'm like, you're gonna give Mama one of those fries, and I'm Mama's on a diet. I can't have a fry. There's such different mindsets that we are putting onto our kids when we do that. But also, there's something about having to say no to yourself all the time. It's
Right.
discouraging. There's no joy in that.
No, not at all. Not
No,
at all.
God.
There's better ways. Absolutely.
I feel like there's other things people. Oh, well, let's go over a couple other things that people do to sabotage because, gosh, I feel like the
Okay.
list could be so long. Give me another one.
I have another one. So we see people in our groups that do extremes. We have people that do low fat, no fat, or high fats. I
Mm,
mean, there's not a balance, which is, I mean, that's something we see all the time in our groups where we're trying to teach them that balance, the low
yes.
and the high. And that's another one that people don't really understand how it's affecting them on those extreme levels of not having any fat or having fat. So it's the balance that people don't understand yet. So
Yeah, you're totally
another
right. And I think good fats are good,
yeah.
and there are bad fats, right? There are
Yep.
fats like, and if you're just eating all fried food all the time, right? Then obviously you're not giving yourself nutrients. But when
Right.
you think about going low fat, that's like the 80s. And I still see in the grocery store 0% yogurt, zero fat yogurt, low fat milk, skim milk, all of those things. And it's like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, because people have to realize fat is full of flavor. So if you take the fat out, where do you get the flavor from? You
Right.
get it from crap.
Sugars and
Yes.
salt and all those things that, like you said, need to make up that flavor. I mean, you're
Artificial
right.
chemicals.
Yes, chemicals and
Yep. Yep. But
sugar.
then on the extreme, you go high fat. People think I go high fat. And that's I see that with a lot of people around the keto stuff, thinking no carbs, high fat. And when they don't understand the balance, they don't understand what food does for them, they screw themselves up and they don't feel good. And
Right.
then they literally, like, especially when you're going keto and the minute you go off of it, your body doesn't know what to do with that stuff and it screws it all up. Consistency. That's the
Right.
other thing.
Right.
Like people are so inconsistent, and that's a sabotager in and of itself. We do one
Yes.
thing, then we pivot to something else. Our bodies are all about trust. It is a relationship like any other. I trust you, Brenna, because I've known you for a really, really long time. And
Right.
I know that if something happens, Brenna's going to be there. But Brenna could also break my trust in minutes. She could do
Yes.
something, right? Doesn't mean we won't be friends again, but I might not trust her as much, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
we do that to our bodies constantly. I mean, I would love people to actually think about it and put it in the comments. How long have you truly done something consistently for your mind, your body, and your spirit? And when we talk about mind, body, and spirit, and we are inconsistent in all of those things, then we can't serve our bodies the way they need to be served so they can do the things we want them to do. And if we just talk about food and the fact that we constantly are just doing different things by it all the time and then mad at it because it doesn't respond the way we want, it's like it's so crazy to me.
Right.
We sabotage just by doing one thing after another. Like it's trends in a closet. Trends come and
Right.
go. We just keep doing that. You can do that with your clothes. You can't do it with your body. It is
You're right.
basic science. Last week I talked about I had a crisp white shirt on and jeans, and I said that is classic. It is like year after year, decade after decade, you could have a crisp white shirt and jeans, and it will hold you
What is
through.
what's better than that? Absolutely.
And that is what we teach in PFC every three. And fueling your body with food is a crisp white shirt with jeans that will never fail you,
Yep.
ever. So,
I
all right,
love it.
let's do another one. I talked a little bit about this last week, but I hear this all the time. I'm trying to go all plant-based. I'm trying to avoid meat. Again, not on a diet, but I'm just trying to eat healthy. I'm trying to avoid meat. And I'm like, this is because we don't know. We watch a Netflix documentary about meat and then we think we can't eat meat, even though we don't even realize the bias that Netflix show
Right. I
is
know what you're talking about.
meat, y'all. If you're vegan because of like ethical reasons, that's a whole different story. But if you're doing it because you're trying to lose weight and get quote unquote healthy, you're doing it wrong. It's really hard to not eat meat and be healthy. And
Right.
I don't even just mean meat, I mean complete proteins.
Right.
But
Yep.
meat
Absolutely.
is great. I mean,
Yes.
has all
I
the amino acids, it has everything we need. And when we avoid it, we have to make it up somehow. And nothing else is quite as effective or fast
yes.
acting.
No, absolutely. And I struggle with this piece with actually my 13-year-old daughter who believes wholeheartedly that, meat, we shouldn't have meat. And me trying to re-educate her, she hears these things and, just like the thing that you had mentioned previously about how we shouldn't have meats, and just trying to instill that in her that no, it's something that is actually, it is again one of those vital components to sustaining a healthy life. So we've started I'm working with her on recipes to do chicken recipes, at least having her have a say to what kind of flavors we incorporate. So but it's so important that avoiding meat is just not, like you said, if you're vegan and for those reasons, that's great, but not because you think it's something that's bad for us.
Right,
So
right.
I absolutely agree.
The nutrients that are in animal-based proteins really can't be replicated in other types of food.
Right.
And all complete protein has the 9 essential amino acids that our body needs. We can't, 9 that we cannot produce ourselves. We need it through food. And so that brings me to the next thing that I know people do to sabotage themselves, but we store that, and those amino acids are often stored in our muscles, which is what helps us to gain lean muscle mass. And that protein is not just about being strong in the gym, it's about being strong in life. When I think about as you get older, what's so important, people think you need to drink milk for your bones. Oh my gosh, you need your protein. That's
Right.
what's going to help you get stronger and leaner
Right.
so that as you get older, you're not kind of like a loose mess in a lot of
Right.
ways, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
but when I think about what happened, so another thing people do is that they just stop, they just don't eat. Like they won't eat all day and they think that's right or good. Or and again,
Yes.
it's not like that protocol of intermittent fasting, but they just think I don't eat after 8 o'clock, or I don't eat until noon. And it's just these like mini beliefs that that's what we have to do. And it all goes around deprivation. But those
Right.
amino acids I was talking about, when you do have complete protein, they're in your muscles. And when you don't eat, your body's going to try to feed itself by grabbing all of those nutrients from your muscles.
Right. Right.
Ugh,
And that's why I say, when I say you are what you eat, because I can't think of a better analogy right now. But when your body's trying to grab nutrients from parts of your body that has anything, you start looking depleted, and it doesn't serve you. You allow yourself to get hungry. And that just, I mean, again, I can preach it now because I know it and now I teach it. But I did the same thing. I could
right.
go all day long and eat dinner and be like, yes, I just had one meal today, but you know what? I didn't feel good. I
Mhm.
didn't have any energy. I'm surprised I even did my job all day long without having the energy, because I didn't realize how good you're supposed to feel, because I always
Right.
felt like crap,
Because you
because
had
this
the
is
callus.
what I
You
did.
had the callus. And you didn't
Yes,
realize
yes.
that's just not, I like we have this little visual that we do sometimes in our membership group or in the 4 weeks to wellness is nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. But the problem is we don't understand what that means.
Hmm.
And so many people think healthy is right not having uh, high fats or avoiding carbs or avoiding meat. And what we have to understand is no, we need all of the things. Healthy means we're fueling our body with the right nutrients that serve our body. It doesn't mean deprivation. It doesn't mean that we have to track things. It doesn't mean
Right.
that we avoid the foods that we know actually work for us just because
Right.
somebody on the Instagram told us that we shouldn't have carbs, or because the Netflix told us we should have meat. And I would love to tell
Right.
people go and do your own research, but it doesn't even work because everything you see is biased. Everything you
Right.
see has an agenda. That's
Hmm.
why this group is so important to me. That's why this show is so important to me, because week after week, what we're trying to do is teach you what's actually right. This is why I say it's the last nutritional advice you'll ever need. Tune in every week and you're going to learn. You're going to get a full on education. You and I are professional educators, for goodness sakes.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. I have a client who recently started in our Shake It Off program. And when I first started talking to her about her goals and, talking about what the program was and looking at, doing our PFC, balancing shakes and replacing a meal, her response was, wait, I have to replace a meal with a shake? And I said, yeah, one or two. And she said, but I only eat once a day. And I was like,
Yes.
not for long, because I'm going to help you with this. So,
Mhm.
and I'm just so passionate about it because she doesn't realize how good she can feel.
Mhm.
So, this is just, I mean, we preach it because we love it. And, but we see what people are doing to be so harmful to themselves.
Yeah. It is
There's a
total
lot of,
sabotage, and we're doing it based on hearsay. We're doing
yes,
it based on hearsay. It's so funny. This is a weird analogy, but I'll use it for a second. We were out with friends, and it was Lent, and so they weren't eating fish, and they're not really like they're Catholic, but they're not really Catholic. You know what I mean? But
mhm,
they don't eat, or what is it? They don't eat meat on Fridays. I'm sorry, that's what it is, right? No meat
during
on
Lent.
Fridays, right, during Lent. And so I'm Christian, but I'm not Catholic. And so I was like, why do you do that? And they looked at each other and they're like, because it's Lent. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get that. But why do you do that? And they were like, I don't know. We've just always done that. And I was like, well, don't you think you should know why you're doing it? And they're like, yeah. And so then we Googled it and we figured it out. And they were like, oh, okay. But I was
Right.
like, how many times do we just go along with what we kind of hear floating around? More than one person has said it. It's just become a cultural norm. Avoid carbs.
It's a
Eat,
cultural norm.
yeah,
Yeah.
bring in less calories than you burn. Like don't eat after 6 o'clock at night. Where do we hear it from? I don't actually know, but it must be
And
true
we
because
always
we've
did
heard
it.
it a few times. And
We've
so,
been doing
like,
it for years.
yeah,
Yes.
I just always didn't eat meat during Lent. I don't
Right.
know why. So my point is dig in, understand, and that's one of the things that's one of the, I think the biggest pieces of our 4 weeks to wellness and any of our coaching programs is about the education, because when you know you can do, and I always talk about the fact that unless you understand, truly understand, you can't do anything for the long term. You
Right.
can't be consistent. And that's why so many people are inconsistent and sabotage themselves, because they don't truly know. So then they
Yes.
try the next thing and the next thing, thinking that that's going to be like, their mecca and their answer. But at the end of the day, no, knowledge is truly power, and that's what we're trying to do here in this group. So comment, respond, let us know, like,
Yes.
what are you learning? What did you learn today? For us to be able to continue to teach and give you value, we want to know that it's helping, that you're learning. So please drop some fire, drop some comments, tell us what you're doing, and stop sabotaging yourself, y'all.
There
I
is a
would
better
love to
way.
know what people are doing. Like, right? What are you doing to sabotage yourself? You got to
Yep.
stop.
Something we said resonates with somebody. We know that. We know it.
Hope so. I hope so, girl. All right. Well, I always love being with you, chatting with
Ditto.
you,
I'm
sharing
always
with
happy.
you.
Who
So
knew?
nice. I
This is
know.
awesome.
I know. Well, have an awesome rest of the day and rest of the week. And I think
Definitely.
you're going to be coming back in a couple weeks for another episode.
I think I'm next week.
Are you next week? I don't even
I
know.
think so.
We'll figure
Lucky
that
me.
out. But we are going to really just now, the first couple of weeks this month, it was like what not to do, what not to wear. Do you remember that TV show? I used to love that TV show, What Not to Wear.
Yes.
And now we're going to kind of move into thinking about what we actually need to be doing and really how we work to fuel our bodies and our minds in the way that we know is most effective. So stay tuned. Can't wait to talk more.
Awesome.
All right,
All
Brenna.
right. All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Carrie. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
day.